Could there be big trouble in store for Newcastle United and Manchester City? A big story in the Times that broke very late last night as the new amendment to the Football Governance Bill and the football regulator is being introduced to our game. There is a proposal to ban state-controlled ownership of Premier League football clubs. We're going to delve into this in more detail. You may not be a fan of the news story, but we have to talk about this. It's seismic. Hit the like button, please. Leave us your comments below, but share this video. Put it into your group chats. Send it to your mum and dad. Send it to your best friends. I'd love to ascertain as many opinions as I can, and not just from fans of City and Newcastle, the wider group as well. But let's delve into this story in some more detail here. The Times state that a proposed ban of state-controlled clubs from English football has been submitted in an independent amendment to the Football Governance Bill that would introduce an independent regulator for sports. Now, the independent regulator is something many of us advocate for. We want an independent body that can look at the PGMOL, that can check whether there are biases, that can investigate potential corruption. You want an independent regulator to ensure that new rules being introduced by the Premier League, by the FA, are lawful, and you don't have to go down the road that City have by suing the Premier League. You want an independent regulator that can ensure ahead of time that clubs are complying with rules, so you don't end up with a situation with the 115 that we face now as the footballing world. Whether they're guilty or whether they're innocent, an independent regulator should stop all of this. It goes on to say that the move, which would have to be agreed by Parliament, would mean that Manchester City and Newcastle United would be forced to change their ownership in order to be granted a licence by the regulator. Lord Bassam of Brighton, a Labour peer, has put forward the amendment to the legislation going through the House of Lords, which would prevent professional English clubs being owned or controlled by sovereign wealth funds or government ministers from any country. So this isn't a specific potential ban for owners from the Middle East or owners from America or owners from Australia. It's anybody essentially who has connections to the running of a nation or the sovereign funding of that said country. I want to get your thoughts and feelings on that initially in the comment section below. What do you make of it? I'd love to know what you think and feel. I really, really would. I thought what's really interesting is I've seen a lot of City fans online already react to this, a lot of Newcastle fans who have essentially said, well, we're structured in a way where we're not actually owned by the state. What I always like about this is officially on paper, you are right. City isn't owned by the royal family directly by the royal family of Abu Dhabi. But you speak to people like, say, Hussam, who are from the Middle East, they state that everything is owned by the royal family. There's no such thing as an independent business, an independent fund. So therefore, you are still state-owned. Interestingly, if Prince Charles was to buy... Sorry, he's going to be the king. If Prince William was to buy a football club, but he wasn't yet the king, he would still be heavily connected to the head of state. So how do you see that? How do you see the distinction? I'd love to understand that from your point of view. But to break it down in terms of what the proposal says, is this is their definition. It's that a state-controlled club is one which is wholly or majority owned by an individual or individuals, entities or entities controlled by individuals who were deemed by the independent football regulator or Secretary of State to be under the influence of any state actor. Now, what's intriguing about that is if you've got a fund who owns a football club like Newcastle, but that fund is ultimately controlled by the state, that then fits into that box. What Manchester City's would also be the same. Yes, Sheikh Mansour is the owner, but due to his direct connections to the government of Abu Dhabi and the United Arab Emirates, he would fit, I think, under that definition. It goes on to state that including but not limited to members of any government or their immediate family, head of state or their immediate family, diplomats, lobbyists and other state representatives or their immediate family and sovereign wealth funds. So it appears the definition that they are putting forward is very, very wide, meaning essentially anybody directly connected or very closely connected to any royal family of a country, any heads of state, any government or sovereign funds and wealth will essentially not be allowed to buy or own football clubs in England should this bill go through. Now, for me personally, I've never had an issue with Sheikh Mansour owning Manchester City. Go and look at all my content when Newcastle United were taken over by PIF. I had no personal issue with it. I didn't care what part of the world they were from. I didn't care what their family did to a degree. Man United were linked with Qatari owners. I had no personal issue with it. I'm not changing my stance on this in any way, any shape or any form. I think these individuals should be allowed to own football clubs unless we are presented with clear evidence as to why it is bad. And by the way, I mean that for any type of owner. You know, if you can present me an argument why tech billionaires shouldn't own football clubs and you show me the reason as to why, and it's insidious or it's vile or it's disgraceful or it's highly problematic, then I'm all for changing my mind. But my general rule has always been to not really care or mind where a said person is from. Maybe that's how I've been brought up by my father, but that's my overarching view on it. But it does appear that a number of football clubs and a number of MPs within the Labour government are pushing for a point where nobody connected to a state, a country, a nation is going to be able to own football clubs. Now, again, City fans, what's your gut telling you on this? Newcastle fans, you haven't even really got going with your new owners. You know that a lot of people tried to stop them coming in initially. How would you feel if you were sort of put through the same process of Chelsea where you're forced into selling or you're forced into restructuring? You're not able to take money from these individuals. And why do you think the government is looking to do this? I understand why football clubs would do it, but why do you think the UK, this isn't the Tories, by the way, who are deemed to often be quite bigoted, why do you think the Labour government is pushing for this amendment? Why do you believe they want to stop Manchester City? Why do they want to stop Newcastle United and their ownership moving forward? I would love to ascertain your thoughts, your feelings, your opinions surrounding this. I think it's very important for us as a footballing community to break this down and to discuss it. It really, really is indeed. For me personally, I don't think they'll get this through. I honestly don't think they'll get this through. I don't know if enough MPs are going to support this move. There's going to have to be a compelling argument. As I've said about myself, show me a compelling argument as to why this is bad for not just football, but bad for the local authorities, bad for local investment, bad for the people. And I think that's a really important element to focus on. Why is it bad? What is wrong with it? And not speculation, not conspiracy, cold, hard, unadulterated facts. Show us what that looks like. But that's always my problem when it comes to these conversations, is that everything's always a little bit pie in the sky, a little bit flimsy, a little vague. Oh, I think it's terrible for the English game. Why do you think it's bad for the English game? Just is, bruv, isn't it? All these state owners. Yeah, okay, you don't like it, but why is it bad? We need the why, not the what, in this scenario for me. But this is being proposed. Newcastle, Manchester City, your club's heads potentially on the chopping block here. Give us your thoughts. Give us your feelings. Make sure you're hitting the like button before you leave as well, please. Very important to us that you get that done. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you all again soon. Peace.